Yo, what's good everyone? This is Ayo Boxing from Adiba, and we're here to talk about Terence Crawford's next move. So Terence Crawford just came off a historic win against Errol Spence Jr. Crawford dominated and destroyed Spence, stopping him in the 9th round. No one was expecting the fight to go like that, but it did. Crawford is now a 3-division, lineal, and 2 times undisputed champion, and is undefeated with 40 wins. He's definitely a future Hall of Famer and an all-time great. For years, he's been unfairly criticized and overlooked by the boxing industry, but he proved the haters and critics wrong. If he wanted to, he could retire right now and no one could protest. He could ride off into the sunset at the peak of his career, but it doesn't look like that will happen. So what's the next move for Terence Crawford? Well, he has 3 options. A rematch with Errol Spence at 154, wait for the outcome of CHARLO versus Canelo, or fight ENNIS. Let's explore these options. The rematch with Errol Spence at 154 is the most likely option because a rematch clause can be activated by the loser within the next 30 days, and the rematch has to occur before the year ends. Spence stated that he wants the rematch, which is understandable. Spence is a warrior and a dog, so he definitely wants his get back. But truth be told, no one wants to see the rematch because the fight was so one-sided. Everyone thinks that Crawford will beat Spence again, and maybe even worse. It would make sense if the fight was competitive or close, but it wasn't. More people are concerned with Spence's health and see a rematch as futile. It's possible that Spence can make adjustments and improve and do better in the rematch. Wilder got dominated in the second fight with Fury, but came back in the trilogy and gave the fans one of the best heavyweight fights and trilogies in boxing history. But I doubt it. No disrespect to Spence, but if it happens, we'll get a sneak peek of what Crawford looks at 154. The second option is waiting for CHARLO. Charlo's moving up to 168 to fight Canelo this September. This news came out of nowhere and it was unexpected. Everybody thought that Charlo was fighting Tim Tszyu since he was his mandatory, but that's not happening. This essentially puts the 154 division on pause. If Charlo wins, will he stay at 168 or will he move back down to 154? That's the biggest question. But if he loses, I expect him to return to 154 to defend his belts. Assuming if Charlo does return to 154 no matter the outcome, he'll most likely fight again in 2024. But this poses another question. Will Charlo fight Crawford or Tszyu? The majority of the fans want to see Crawford fight Charlo. They have been going back and forth for several years, and with Crawford beating Spence, this gives Charlo a good reason to fight Crawford. But Tszyu is the mandatory and has been waiting for a long time. The Australian fans want to see that fight, and I guarantee you that Tszyu will push hard to get his chance. The WBO might force the mandatory title defense. The most logical way to solve this problem is for Crawford to fight Tszyu. Tszyu would definitely take this fight in a heartbeat, but I'm not sure if Crawford will. And no, I don't think that Crawford would duck or is scared of Tszyu. I just think that Crawford's at the point in his career where he only wants the big fights. You have to remember that this man is 35 years old. He doesn't have a lot of time left, but Crawford doesn't duck smoke, so it's a possibility. But Crawford could also fight Keith Thurman in the meantime as well. Keith Thurman was at the fight, and it looks like his competitive spirit and fighting spirit is back because Thurman just called out Crawford. Thurman has been out the ring for 2 years, but this fight is unfinished business. Crawford wanted to fight Thurman back in the day, but Thurman wasn't too interested, so it looks like the tables have turned. I would love to see that fight because Thurman brings a different type of skill set to the table and he's entertaining as hell. He can definitely sell that fight. But the last option is fighting ENNIS at welterweight. This is the least likely option because Crawford has stated that he wants to move up to 154 and is justified. He just became undisputed and he has nothing to prove at welterweight anymore. If we're being fair, ENNIS brings nothing to the table except for being the upcoming challenger who wants to prove himself. A lot of people want to see this fight, but those same people understand the position Crawford is in. It would be cool seeing Crawford defend his undisputed titles, but like what I said earlier, it looks like Crawford is only interested in the big fights since he's near the end of his career. But if it happens, that would be a great fight. ENNIS shares a lot of similarities to Crawford. It would be youth versus experience. But ENNIS will most likely be elevated to the IBF champion if Crawford vacates and goes up to 154. If that happens, ENNIS should fight Stanionis because that fight would make the most sense and will most likely be a unification fight, therefore stamping ENNIS as the new man at welterweight. But who knows, this is boxing, anything can happen. But thank you for tuning in with Ayo Boxing from Adiba. Hit like and subscribe, and more content's coming your way.